Hi friends, so in my previous video you have seen the installation of the ADDS in your Windows Server 2012 R2 edition. So here you are going to see how to configure the ADDS in your Windows Server 2012 R2. So I'm just going to the server manager. So keep in mind that I have already installed the role ADDS in this server. So right now I am just going to configure, that is I am just going to promote the server to the domain controller. So since I have already installed the ADDS, so here you can see the notification which was asking for promoting the server to the domain controller. So you can just simply click this option, or you can go to the command prompt or promote, that is a domain controller promotion. You can just simply click this option. So here in Windows Server 2012 R2, this option was changed to this server manager. So you don't want to run this command for installing, that is the promoting the server to the domain controller. So if you're using the Windows Server 2003 or Windows Server 2008, you can just simply run this command to promote your server to the domain controller. So here you don't want to run this command, so you can just simply click this option and you can just simply click this promote the server to the domain controller to start configuring your ADDS. So I'm just clicking this option. So here it was asking for the configuration. So it was doing some checks, so let's see what it was doing. So in this Windows Server 2012 R2, they have almost changed everything to be as simple so that you can easily understand and work in this server manager. So each and everything can be seen in this server manager, and you can also configure each and everything using the server manager, including maintenance and this server, and you can also connect to the other servers on file storage, local server or remote server. You can add as many servers as you want to easily manage all the thing in from one server. So you can also configure all the roles here from this server manager dashboard, and you can also see the events and what all the services running. You can also take the results, that is the report of the server performance, and everything can be done in this dashboard of the server manager. So right now I am just going to configure the domain controller in this server. So here you can see three options: add a domain controller to an existing domain, add a domain controller to an existing forest, and add a new forest. Since I am not having a forest, I just need to create a forest, so I'm just selecting add a new forest. So here you can see add a domain controller to an existing domain. So if you are having a domain already, you can simply click this button and it will ask for the domain and the credentials that you need to supply for adding a domain controller to the existing domain. So you need to have a domain for configuring this option. So if you select this option, you need to have a forest for creating a new domain. For example, if you want to create a tree domain, if you are having a tree domain, or if you want to create a child domain, or if you want to create a tree domain, you need to select these options. So regarding this, I will tell you in my future video. I will explain everything in my future video. So I am just going to select a new forest. First of all, I am just going to configure a new domain, so I am just selecting a new forest. So here you can give the root name of the domain. That is, I'm just going to give king.in. This is my root name of the domain. That is, this is the domain which I'm going to install. So here they have given an option called more about the deployment configuration, where you can open the help menu. Since it was taking a more amount of time, I'm just going to minimize it and continue in this. So I have just given the domain name, and I'm just going to select next to go to the next option, that is the domain controller options. So at this time, if you are connected to the network, it will check whether you have alternate name, that is same name in your network. So I'm just this is a fresh network, it will not check for more time. And here you can see there are two functional levels. One is the forest functional level, and another one is the domain functional level. So in the forest functional level, I am just going to select Windows Server 2008. That is, for example, if you have a forest created in your network, that is a, for example, what to say, if you have a forest in your network that works with the minimum of Windows Server 2008, then you need to select this one, that is a Windows Server 2008. Otherwise, if you have Windows Server 2008 R2 or Windows Server 2012, you need to select those forests, because if you have a forest with the Windows Server 2008, you can work with the Windows Server 2008 without any additional configuration. So if you have Windows Server 2003, you cannot work. For example, if if I am just going to select Windows Server 2012 here, so if you have Windows Server 2008, then that Windows Server 2008 will not be added in this forest. So I'm just going to select Windows Server 2008 R2. So if I select Windows Server 2008 R2, so this Windows Server 2008 server, whatever server you have, Windows Server 2008 server cannot be added in this forest. The minimum working configuration of the Windows server which needs to be added to this functional forest functional level needs to be Windows Server 2008, and it cannot be Windows Server 2008. That is, it needs to be Windows Server 2008 R2. So the minimum functional forest level, I am just going to select it as Windows Server 2008. And since I have just selected Windows Server 2008 in the forest functional level, here also I will select it as Windows Server 2008. That is the minimum domain functional level which I am going to add it. For example, if you have installed a Windows Server 2008 in your network, so you're just going to add that Windows Server 2008 to this domain as a member server. So you can add the Windows Server 2008 as a member server without any problem. So if you have Windows selected the Windows Server 2012 as your domain functional level, if you are going to add a child domain to this domain, so your for domain functional level needs to be Windows Server 2008. And if you have a 2008 server planning to configure a child domain in your network, then you cannot add it. So you need to keep in mind. So if you have any doubt in this, I can just simply give you more explanation in my video next to this video. So it was taking time, so I am just going to select these two options. I am just going to go to the next option. Here it was asking for a DSRM password. that is a directory services restore mode password. So already I have told you that I have not selected an option called domain name system server, that is a domain name server here. So by default it will ask for the option here to install the domain name system in your server. So if you select here, it will automatically install the role in your server. So I'm just going to select it because without the DNS we can't work in the Active Directory. So I'm just going to select, since this is a default Google catalog server, it was disabled and I cannot do anything here. So this is my first domain, so I have just given the password. I'm just going to select next. So it was asking for a delegation for this DNS server cannot be created since because the authority prefix is on. Since I am not having any other DNS server, I can't create any delegated DNS server here. I'm just going to select next. You can simply skip this option and it will ask for a NetBIOS name here. So you can specify a NetBIOS name or it will automatically take the NetBIOS name here. It will check in your network whether the name exists in your network. So this is a default NetBIOS name I am just going to give, or you can simply modify the name also. So I'll just leave it as a default. I'm just going to select next. So this is the default path where you will save your database files and log files and the sysvol files, that is a group policies will be shared through with the help of this sysvol folder. So I'm just simply going to leave it as it is. I'm just going to select next. So here you can see all the configuration what you have made till this, and I'm just going to view the script. Here you can see it here. So this is a PowerShell script, you can simply run it. So I'll just save this PowerShell script in my desktop because it will be helpful for me in the future. Just saving as DC promo. I'm just going to select next. So here it will check for the prerequisites for installing the domain controller option. So you can see here all the prerequisite checks passed successfully, so you don't need to worry about it. So your server is ready for installing the domain controller. So I'm just going to select next. So if any of the warning comes in this page, then you need to go and rectify those errors. You can just simply discard these warnings. If any errors comes in this page, you need to rectify those errors, then only it will allow you to install the domain controller. So I'm just going to select next install. So at this time I will show you what is meant by forest domain control, forest and domain functioning level and forest functioning level. So I'll just tell you. So I'll just tell you about the forest functioning level. So for example, take this as a forest and this is a Windows Server 2008. This is a Windows Server 2008 and this is a Windows Server 2008 R2 and this is a Windows Server 2012. So if you keep your forest functioning level as a Windows Server 2012, then these both these server cannot be added to your forest. You cannot configure any of the configuration if you keep the forest functioning level as a Windows Server 2012. That means it cannot, the 2008. So it is asking for something. The computer is being restarted because I did automate. So it's already. So just click close and I will take a look at the here. Sorry for the disturbance. It was just finishing the installation of the ADDS. So here you can see and confirm that the installation of the domain was completed successfully. So I'm just going to enter and confirm it inside the system. I'm just going to the properties. So here you can see the fully qualified computer name, that is a FQDN name, server.techend.in. That means the installation of the domain was completed successfully. So by this means you can confirm the domain was installed successfully, and here also you can see the domain techend.in was completed successfully. So I will also configure, that is I will also confirm it here. So you can also go to the start, and you can also go to the administrative tools, and here you can see the Active Directory users and computers was installed successfully. So I am just going to open this. And here you can see and confirm the domain was installed successfully, and you can see all the users here. So by this means you can confirm that the domain installation was completed successfully, and here you can see the DNS, and also you can see the ADDS here. So this tells that the domain installation was completed successfully. And I'll just explain what is meant by forest, where I have left previously. So this is a Windows Server 2008 server, this is a Windows Server 2008 R2 server, and this is a Windows Server 2012 server. So if you set as a forest function level as a Windows Server 2012 server, then if you want to add any of the server, that is a Windows Server 2008 server to this forest, or a Windows Server 2008 R2 server to this forest, you cannot add, since you have set this forest function level as a Windows Server 2002. So this is for what it was used, that is a forest functional level. So same as that, as it is, the domain functional level works. For example, if we have Windows Server 2012 server here, and Windows Server 2008 server here, and Windows Server 2008 R2 server here, if you want to add any of this server to this domain, it will not add in, cannot be configured, and all the services will not work in this both two of the servers. So if you select the 2012 server as a forest functional level or a domain functional level, the older versions or other versions cannot be configured or added into this functional level, but you can add the higher version. For example, if you have Windows Server 2008 server, for example, I will say this. So this is a Windows Server 2008 server which I have selected in my domain. So if this is a Windows Server 2012 R2 server, this is a Windows Server 2012 R2 server, and this is Windows Server 2012 server, then if you select this Windows Server 2008 as your default forest and domain functional level, then you can add both of this server and both will work without any problem. So only I have selected the Windows Server 2008 as a forest functional level and the domain functional level. So now I can add any of this server, that is Windows Server 2008, Windows Server 2008 R2, Windows Server 2012 and Windows Server 2012 R2 to my domain, and I can make it to act as a member server or child server or a tree domain or another member server or another DNS server or anything you want. I think this must be understood to you. So if you have any doubt, you can just post comments so that I can explain clearly. So thank you for watching the video. Sorry for some disturbances which I have been made through this video. Thank you again for watching the video.